The Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Then he called the crowd to him, and he said to them, "Listen and understand. It is not what goes into the mouth that defiles a person, but it is what comes out of the mouth that defiles." Then the disciples approached him and said, "Do you know that the Pharisees took offense when they heard what you said?" He answered, "Every plant that my heavenly Father has not planted will be uprooted. Let them alone. They are blind guides of the blind. And if one blind person guides another, both will fall into the pit." But Peter said to him, "Explain this parable to us." Then he said, "Are you still without understanding? Do you not see that whatever goes into the mouth enters the stomach and goes out into the sewer? But what comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart, and this is what defiles. For out of the heart comes evil intentions, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false witness, slander. These are what defile a person. But to eat with unwashed hands, that doesn't defile." Jesus left that place and went away to the district of Tyre and Sidon. Just then, a Canaanite woman from that region came out and started shouting, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But he did not answer her at all. And his disciples came and urged him, saying, "Send her away, for she keeps shouting after us." He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and knelt before him, saying, "Lord, help me." He answered, "It's not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus answered her, "Woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And her daughter was healed from that moment. The gospel of the Lord. Wow. There's a lot going on in this section. Jesus, he's talking about purity and defilement, not according to the purification rituals and laws of the religious community, because those can be changed at a whim. Rather, he's describing purity based on ethics and morality. When the disciples come to Jesus and report that the religious leaders are critically responding to what Jesus has said, Jesus again turns to language referencing plants. Like he had described the religious community as a mustard seed that then grows into a bush and then as a tree. He also is using plant language here to describe those things that need to be uprooted. Those things, those weeds, tares, those need to be uprooted. And so he says here, these things don't come from God. And so, don't worry, they'll be uprooted also. Simon Peter, he doesn't have a clue. And Jesus seems to be a little bit exasperated when he says, "Are you still without understanding? Whatever goes into the mouth comes out the backside and then into the sewer. That's not what defiles a person. It's what comes out of the mouth. The words, the attitudes, the prejudices, those things are what defile us. Because, as Jesus said, those things come from our heart. That's what's in our heart. The words that come out, what comes out of the mouth reveals the defilement inside of us. Again, Jesus isn't destroying or abolishing the dietary laws or the purity laws. But he's saying here that there's something more important than that. Our commitments and our compassions, our understanding of others, and our actions toward them is what shows us to be corrupt or not. How we act, how we speak, how we treat others. That has got to be something that we're constantly watchful about. What did I say? What did I mean? What was going on inside of me? And what does that show what's inside of me according to how I speak to other people? Well, then comes the Canaanite woman. She's actually living in the region of Phoenicia, Sidon and Tyre. She's a non-Jewish person. She calls Jesus Lord and Son of David and begs for deliverance for her daughter, who is tormented by a demon. Period. Okay. Are we talking about a real demon? Maybe. Are we talking about someone who is oppressed? This poor young woman is oppressed by some demonic entity? Could be. But we also have to remember that that was the kind of language that was used in the first century to describe people with mental illness. It says that Mary Magdalene had had 7 devils cast out from her. Does that really mean that there were 7 demonic entities in Mary? Could be. But that's, again, figurative language for somebody who is suffering terribly from mental illness. And that calls for Jesus' compassion. Well, this woman says, my daughter is tormented by a demon. Who knows what the symptoms were? This is what they believed was going on. So she comes and she begs Jesus, my daughter's tormented by this demon. Can't you do something? But surprisingly, and frankly, to our dismay, Jesus doesn't even answer her. Come on, Jesus, what's going on here? Well, you got to read to the end of the story. Doesn't answer her. Then his disciples show their hand and their hearts by saying, send this woman away. She's yelling after us. She's causing a commotion. Send her away. And Jesus says to them, I was called to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But this woman pushes on. She pushes on through and she comes before Jesus, and kneeling down before him, she said, Lord, help me. And again, Jesus gives what appears to be a harsh answer to her by saying, it's not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs. Okay, that was really kind of inflammatory language that the Judeans of the first century used for some of the surrounding people. They are dogs. She isn't put off. I love this woman. She pushes through and she says, yes, Lord, but even the dogs can eat the crumbs that fall off of their master's table. And you can almost see the picture as Jesus spins toward her with his eyes wide open and a great smile, and he says, great is your faith. Let it be to you as you wish. The woman's daughter is immediately healed, instantly. Let's back up. When the woman from Tyre and Sidon approached him, all of a sudden, the cultural, the political, the religious, the ethnic Prejudices and barriers show themselves in great force here. And the disciples don't do themselves any flattery by the way they act toward her also. According to the Jewish covenant, their privileged role allowed them to exclude others outside of the house of Israel. This woman challenges that. She challenges the covenant. She challenges the thought that she cannot enjoy the blessings from an open encounter with God. Here's the thing. Matthew tells us that she was a Canaanite woman, and yet she's living in Phoenicia. According to Matthew's understanding, she is among those people who have been displaced by Israel's occupation of that land during the times of Joshua. She had been removed from her homeland. So the covenant of the Hebrews may not mean that much to her. And she seeks for a relationship of her own and help for her daughter. Even though there had been hundreds of years of antagonism between the Canaanites and the Israelites, she's looking to Jesus for mercy. Jesus gives her a bit of a head fake by saying, "Oh, I'm not here to talk to you guys." But he is holding the door open for her to step through it in faith and in assurance and in determination. She is submissive, but she is persistent. Some have even said that maybe she had outwitted Jesus in this little debate. She acknowledges Israel's temporary priority in God's purposes, but she rejects the idea of Israel being the exclusive people of God. I don't think she outwitted Jesus. I think she went exactly where Jesus wanted her to go. And she's right. The people of Israel were chosen indeed, but they were chosen to be a nation of priests to carry the covenant and the teachings of the Lord to the nations of the earth, and they failed rather miserably. They preferred empire to emissary. They preferred to consolidate their own place, their own rule, and it brought them into conflict with Egypt, Babylon, Persia, Assyria, all the rest of it. So many more you can name. They chose to keep the covenant for themselves, and in doing so, exclude all others from that covenant. When the woman refers to the crumbs and the food that falls from the table, she's referring to God's saving activity. Salvation and healing is for everyone. Everyone. Jesus is thrilled with her conviction and her stubbornness. And he heals her daughter just like that. We need to look at this story from both perspectives for ourselves. We need to recognize that we are called, like the nation of Israel, to be priests to the rest of the world. The arrangement with God, the covenant, if you will, is for the benefit of the world and not just a few who happen to say the right prayers at the right place at the right time. And we also need to have the persistence, the determination, the stubbornness of this woman who has a need that only Christ can fulfill. Like Jacob hanging on to the messenger of God, so must we hang on until we find the healing that we so desperately need, and then to be able to pass that need on, that healing on, to the rest of the world who needs it so much. We need to be both. We need to be covenant people, and we also need to cling to Christ in stubbornness and determination and find our healing. Then share that healing with others. Thanks be to God.